If you're looking for a happy story full of joy and happy endings, then go ahead, look elsewhere. Because this is a series of unfortunate events. Dear Reptile Room, welcome to La Retahíla.
Look away, look away, look away, look away.
Sometimes in your life you may find yourself... Oh, sorry, I can keep on speaking like lemon snicket. So this is the second part of a series of unfortunate events. I really was looking forward to reading this book because I liked the first part, which was a bad beginning. If you haven't seen my video or read the book, then let me summarize it a bit. I must warn you that these clips contain spoilers from the first book, so watch under your own risk. So this is Violet Baudelaire. She is the eldest Baudelaire, she's an inventor, and she will also inherit the Baudelaire fortune when she is of legal age. This is Claude Baudelaire, of whom I couldn't find any single illustration of him complete, by the way. He is a reader, he's a researcher, and he's also my favorite character in the series. But moving on, this is Sonny Baudelaire. She's the younger Baudelaire and she loves biting things with her 4 sharp teeth. These 3 siblings are having a great day at the beach, which is really cloudy, by the way, and Mr. Poe comes in. He has to tell them bad news. Their parents have died on a terrible fire, and from now on their life will change. Mr. Poe works for the bank, and he is always coughing for some reason, and it's responsible for the Baudelaire fortune until Violet is of legal age. He is also not very helpful most of the times. He told them that they have to live with a legal guardian. In this case, their closest legal guardian is Count Olaf. He's a very bad man that will always try to get the Baudelaire fortune. To make a long story short, Count Olaf, as he is an actor, makes a play so that he can marry Violet legally. However, anyone knows that this is legal, so he tries to marry her to get the fortune, but his plans went wrong. Everyone discovers him, but he escapes. When he escapes, that's when we find ourselves in the second book, The Reptile Room. So in this second book, more misery waits. In this part, we find a new character who is Uncle Monty. Uncle Monty is a very renowned herpetologist. Uncle Monty is my favorite guardian so far. I think he's the most lovable to the children and he is also the one more caring. So the best part of Uncle Monty is the reptile room. He has this huge space where he keeps all the reptiles that he has taken from his expeditions. There's snakes, there's very weird frogs that the Baudelaires had never seen. He has a huge library where Klaus is really happy, so they will really enjoy their time in the reptile room, but not for long. Because we also have another character, Stefano, who is, guess who? Exactly, it's Count Olaf and a disguise. Stefano will bring all the magnificent time that the Baudelaires could have had with Uncle Monty, and that's really bad about the books because Uncle Monty never thinks that Stefano could be Count Olaf. As in all the books, you know, the adults are never suspicious about anything at all. So in this book, Uncle Monty never thinks that Stefano could be Count Olaf, even though the kids try to tell him every second. So what I really like about this book is the writing style. I love how Lemon Snicket is telling the story because as you are watching the Baudelaires, as you are reading about what's happening with them, you're also reading about Lemon Snicket, about his perspective of things, and he's like the character of the story. I really like that in the book. Everything is like thought about. It's like everything had happened before the books had been written. So I love that it creates that atmosphere. Also, the series keeps that atmosphere, and that's what I like it so much. But we'll talk about the differences and the similarities of the books and the series in a minute. It also says different words that you may not know about, and it puts them in context. So if you're not a native English speaker, it will be really easy for you to read it. However, the books aren't actually written by Lemon Snicket, who is a character of the series. By the way, he always dedicates his books to some Beatrice that we will find about later in the series, but I really like that the author came up with an idea of giving his voice a character in the story. I love that part of the book. But the real author is Daniel Handler, who is an American writer that has written all the books of a series of unfortunate events. And I think he also wrote the scripts for some of the chapters in the Netflix series. Also, the illustrator is Retahíla. I love the illustrations from this book. You can see them here. I will put many illustrations. Let's wait. So I love the illustrations in this book. Retahíla has worked in many newspapers. As you will enjoy reading the book, you will also love watching the illustrations. And Lemon Snicket also gives letters to his editor and gives you a little clue about the books that come in. For example, this is the beginning of the letter to the editor that you can find in the Reptile room. To my kind editor, I am writing to you from the shores of Lake Lacrimose, where I am examining the remains of Aunt Josephine's house in order to completely understand everything that happened when the Butler orphans found themselves here. See, there's a clue of the wide window. It's like Lemon Snicket is really investigating what happened. I love the book for all those reasons. Very easy to read. There are only 13 chapters, but it's not that long. Also, I really like that across the books there are a lot of literary references. So now let's go to my favorite part, which is the differences between the series and the book. This part will contain spoilers from the series and the books. I was really surprised when I watched the Netflix series. I must say that I watched the series and then I read the books. I love the atmosphere of the series and it's really close to the one in the books. So now let's talk about the differences, which I can tell you are not much. And I also love that about this series. It's really true to the books. So the first difference is Uncle Monty. In the book, they describe Uncle Monty as a chubby man with a round red face. However, in the series, he's not quite faithful to that description because he has a darker skin color and he's not that chubby or short. The second difference is the trip to Peru. When they get to Uncle Monty's house in the book, it is said from the beginning that Uncle Monty is planning an expedition to Peru. But in the series, they found out that they have to go to Peru by a code in the Zombies on the Snow movie. We'll talk about this movie later because there's a huge difference about it in the book and the series. As you may know if you have seen the series, in the second episode there's like this persecution where Count Olaf is trying to get to the kids and there's a huge maze with the shape of an eye outside Monty's house. However, in the book there's any maze mentioned at all. In the series, in a bad beginning, they find out a telescope in their house, their house because it's all burned. Okay, that was not a good joke. Klaus finds a telescope that he will carry all the way through the series, but we are now in the second book and there's no telescope at all. So I can tell you there's no maze or no telescope in the book. The fifth difference, Dr. Lucafont. In the series, the doctor that comes in is actually a Nurse Lucafont. And it's this man that we don't know if it's a man or a woman, that's how it's described in the book. But in the book, there's only Dr. Lucafont, who is actually the man that has hooks in his hands, but he's the only one that comes to the house because in the series, the whole squad of Count Olaf comes into the house and try to manipulate Monty's death. But in the book, there's only the man with hooks in his hands and that is Dr. Lucafont. There's no Nurse Lucafont. The sixth difference, the Mamba du Mal. In the series, Count Olaf blames the incredibly deadly viper for killing Uncle Monty. But in the book, they blame the Mamba du Mal, which is actually the poison that was inserted in Uncle Monty and which killed him. But in the series, they say it was incredibly deadly viper. However, the kids know that's not true because it's not deadly at all, and it was the Mamba du Mal's poison. But in the book, we definitely know it was that snake. They never say that the incredibly deadly viper could have killed Uncle Monty. So now let's go to the last difference, which is Zombies in the Snow. In the series, we can see that Zombies in the Snow has actually got a code that Uncle Monty finds out and cracks with his telescope. But in the book, there's no code at all. They see the movie and that's it. But in the books, in the unauthorized autobiography, in Lemon Snicket unauthorized autobiography, in Lemon Snicket Lemon Snicket unauthorized autobiography, it is said that the Zombies in the Snow movie had Sebald code, which is a code invented in the book, but Uncle Monty didn't know about this code, so he couldn't have cracked it. As I told you, there was no trip to Peru mentioned in that movie. Actually, the code in the movie talked about the danger of Count Olaf being Stefano. That's why Uncle Monty never finds out in the book that Count Olaf was Stefano, but he also never sees any code in Zombies in the Snow. While in the series, we actually get to see how Uncle Monty is with his telescope cracking the code in that exact minute where the children are there. So I really like the series, and I also love the books. I think I prefer the books to the series because, as I told you before, the language and all the writing style is really enjoyable, and I prefer the books also because some things are more described in the books, but I suggest you to see both because they are really similar with each other. I hope you've liked this video, this suggestion. The next video, The White Window, will come out in Spanish, but I will put English subtitles so you can see the video as well. From The White Window, all the A series of Unfortunate Events videos will be in English, so subscribe if you want more A series of Unfortunate Events. But remember, if you have picked this book with the hope of finding a cherry tale, you have picked the wrong book. Keep on reading under your own risk.